Welcome to the Science of CX podcast. My name is Steve Pappas, a former serial entrepreneur turned CX obsessed expert. And each week we bring you an inspiring message and insight into how customer experience can catapult your business to soar, grow, and accelerate beyond what you thought was possible. We seek out experts to interview and help you on your journey to CX in the science of CX. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Science of CX. I'm your host, Steve Pappas, and as always, we search high and low for experts in all areas that are touching the customer experience continuum. So we're going to get right into that, and we're going to start talking with a guest of ours today, Nir Bashan. Nir, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
Oh, this is great. No, I'm really looking forward to this because this is an area that a lot of people don't always think about first. You know, they may, when they're in business, they think about their idea, they think about how to get customers, they think about various other aspects, but they don't think about what we're going to talk about. And what we're going to talk about is creativity. And let me give our listeners a little background so they understand where your expertise comes from. So Nir Bashan is a world-renowned creativity expert. He has taught thousands of leaders and individuals around the globe how to harness the power of creativity to improve profitability, increase sales, improve customer service, and ultimately create more meaning in their work. Nir has spent the last 2 decades working on a formula to codify creativity. So we're going to talk about that a little bit too. So that formula is found in the creator mindset. Which has been translated into 2 languages already. He has one of the youngest professors ever selected to teach graduate courses at the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, and also taught undergraduate courses at the University of California at Los Angeles. He's worked on numerous albums, movies, and advertisements with famous actors and musicians ranging from Rod Stewart to Woody Harrelson. His work on creativity has won a Clio Award and was nominated for an Emmy. So Nir is the founder and CEO of the Creator Mindset, a company that conducts workshops, consulting, coaching, and keynote speeches at conferences and corporate events for clients like AT&T, Microsoft, Ace Hardware, the NFL Network, EA Sports, Suzuki, Activision, and JetBlue. Nir lives in Orlando, Florida, and he comes to us today from there, and we're really looking forward to our conversation. So, Nir, this is going to be really, really fun for me because, you know, I guess I always look at myself as I guess I use both sides of my brain because I like the logical side because I started out life with a programming background, moved into technology sales. I've ran numerous businesses and global businesses. I had 6 startups of my own, but I also feel that I get the most out of it when I'm using my creativity side. So hopefully we can start talking about this because tell our listeners why. Let's start with why is creativity important to begin with?
Yeah, it's a good question, Stephen, and definitely I think you're one of the rare ones because the fact that you recognize that you're able to combine both sides of your brain is means that you're pretty much far ahead of where most people are. The fact remains is that most businesses out there. Most products and services that are conducted in business are completely swayed to the analytical side, right? We've fell in love with spreadsheets and data and stuff like this, and we're missing all of these soft skills and amazing creative potential within those skills to come up with a great experience for a customer, whether you're business to business or business to consumer. And what I've found time and time again is that creativity is the application of all of these non-analytical constructs into a business, no matter what it is that you do.
Interesting. Well, maybe we could dig a little further because creativity to me, is one of the most satisfying parts of my day-to-day life. The logical side of what I do is almost habit, right?
Yeah,
It's things I do with my eyes closed. But the creativity part is what fuels me and what I thrive on. So maybe our listeners are thinking along these lines. But why is creativity important now? I mean, during this COVID, during this pandemic, how can we, address what's going on around us too?
definitely. I think now more than ever, we need to be in touch with a different way to think and a different way to look at common and everyday problems in order to solve them. And there's a lot of companies out there that are doing horribly right now, and they're struggling. But for me, looking at crisis, especially what we're going through now, is really an opportunity to position yourself, your product or service in such a way that is able to be consumed by your customer in the most creative means possible. So I'll give you an example, right? There is a clothing retail store that is, a few miles from my house, and they've always been doing amazing creative things in the retail environment. So, for instance, they, have a party, like a, where they invite a bunch of people and they have booze and the whole deal. And you can come to the party and, because you're on the list because you buy stuff there or whatnot. It's fun. You mingle or whatnot and do that kind of thing. But there is absolutely no buying at that party. So imagine Saturday night in a retail environment, everybody, feeling good, having a few glasses of wine or whatnot. And you're like, oh, that's a pretty cool item. I'd like to buy that. No, you can't buy it. You can buy it later, maybe, but not tonight. Tonight's just for the customers and it's fun. And so what ends up happening at this particular place is that people go home and then they kind of think about that item and go, you know what? I'll go pick it up the next day. And, their sales are really good in the following weeks after one of these things where you can't buy something. So that is an amazing creative way to look at a business, particularly retail in this case. Another thing that they do. So COVID hit and you understand that the mindset is very creative at this company. COVID hit, they set up, tents outside and card tables. They were ready to go, taking online orders, doing, distancing and, touchless purchases and all that stuff. And, all of a sudden we have a business that is like, you know what? It sucks out there and we're going to rise to the occasion and do a great job taking care of our customers. That to me is creativity. Why? Because most people just fold and go, you know what? Oh, the economy is bad. I'm going to wait for the government to bail me out. I'm going to wait for a check. But this is a company that said, you know what? We cannot provide proper problem solving with the analytical mindset only. We need to combine it with new, different, and novel ideas, creativity, in order to survive this crisis. So they set up a card table. They're sending 2 or 3 sizes. They have some clothes or whatnot. They send 2 or 3 sizes home. You bring back whatever you don't want. It goes to the dry cleaner. So it's all safe and sane and all that good stuff. And you really see a business that is stepping up to creativity and providing that service for customers.
Well, not only are they stepping up to creativity, but they're really taking a page of the customer experience handbook. And that's probably what we should ask of our listeners today. I mean, that brings to mind, and listeners, you know how to get in touch with me, but what creative thing do you do for your customers? No strings attached. I mean, you just heard an example of a party that they were throwing for their customers, not trying to sell, not trying to make it a lead generation or a lost leader that leads to it. Now, they may, people may buy something, but it's a no strings attached. What are you doing today that is just for your customers? Or what are you doing today that's just for your employees? So we'll leave them to think about that for a second. I'm going to take a quick break, and we're going to be back in 45 seconds.
Panviva has 25 years of empowering customer service, and we have deep expertise in how people actually use information, from our roots in learning and performance. We offer accurate, consistent information on demand to every channel. Most relevant knowledge at your people's exact moment of need. Integrated, streamlined internal processes. Systems that deliver memorable and remarkable customer experiences that boost customer attention and loyalty every time. And knowledge that extends across your entire digital landscape. To learn more, visit Panviva at www.panviva.com.
And we're back. So we're talking with Nir Bashan. And Nir is an expert on teaching creativity, doing workshops and seminars on how to teach creativity. So let me ask you this, Nir.
Yep.
Can anybody learn to be creative?
Anybody can learn. We were all born creative. And somewhere along the line, Steve, we stopped listening to who we are as human beings, right? Creativity is deeply ingrained in the DNA of who we are. And as we get older, as we sort of mature, go to school, get an MBA, the whole deal, we start to trade that spark of idea that's constantly being generated in the human mind. We trade that for spreadsheet logic and numbers and quantification. We are absolutely in love with things that we can assign a number to. But creativity asks you, what is the value of assigning a number to something if it doesn't really mean anything? So for me, creativity is literally the missing component in most businesses today to enable amazing potential for growth and amazing potential for, better sales or, more profit, whatever it is your particular business wants to do. I've found it time and time again with different companies that I've consulted and, different organizations where I've delivered keynotes and stuff like that, that there is quite a lack of creativity in modern business today, and the ability to take the analytics and take the creative and combine them are being executed very rarely, few and far between. And if we're able to do it, then we can get to a level that is so much better and so much greater than where we are today.
Yeah, if I paraphrase that a little bit and maybe we go a little further, it seems that as we grow up, as we mature, as you said, we gravitate to the data side, the logic side, because it's tangible. It's a known quantity. Whereas the creativity side it's not just that it's intangible, it's not yet known. It's not yet known until it's created.
Right.
Once it's created, then it becomes known, and you can see it, but you could get a sense of satisfaction from it. So, in your work in the creator mindset, have you done anything on the psychological side of when people do find that they attain the creativity level, that there's a different sense of satisfaction than I just created another spreadsheet?
Yeah, definitely. It is sort of one of those things where, from a psychological standpoint, we have ideas being constantly generated, right? So people tell me all the time, Nir, what you're saying sounds great. You're creative, but I'm not. I'm not. I'm not really creative. And for me, that is just simply not the case. What is usually going on when somebody tells me that they are not creative is that they have listened to so well the self-doubt monster that is telling them that any of these ideas that sort of start to come out are not right, not serious, not the stuff of, intellectual pursuit, and not, how is that going to help my business? I've got a crazy idea. I'm going to open up my retail shop and I'm going to not let anybody buy a penny. Not a penny. I'm not going to let them spend 1 penny in that store. I'm going to fill it with booze and music, and we're going to have a good time, customer appreciation night or whatnot, and we're going to do it. And that's a batshit crazy idea, Steve. There's no doubt. I'll tell you a million reasons why we shouldn't do that from the analytical side, right? It costs money. People aren't going to buy. The whole point of a store is for people to buy stuff. I'll tell you, there's a car dealer over here in about two and a half hours south of my house in a big city. I won't mention their name, but they routinely use the space of the dealership to host events. They'll have musicians come and all this stuff. Same policy. You're in there. Nobody's buying a car that night, right? But you kind of look around. The subtext is definitely there, and so that ability to listen to the idea and not kill it is a construct of creativity, and it's something that's really needed today. We are so good at shutting down the volume and squashing those ideas down. So when I talk to somebody who's not creative, I say, what are some ideas that you have that you never acted on and perhaps wanted to act on, so that you can, kind of express yourself and have creativity manifests in what you do. And the conversation always kind of goes a little bumpy at first, but eventually somebody goes, yeah, there's an idea that I really wanted to try, so on and so forth. And I think our job is to loosen that our death grip on that self-doubt monster that wants to tell us analytics only, and start to understand that creative ideas need to get out there into the world, and they need to sort of fly.
Well, I think you're onto something. I think we need creative ideas more than ever right now. I think, for the last few months, the entire world has dealt with change management internally, on a personal basis, change management in your business, at your job, change management at what's happening in the world. We're dealing with change. We are actually watching history being made. We've never experienced this level of change in our lifetimes.
Yep.
And right now, if you're in business, you're probably trying to rethink a lot of things, right? I mean, there were, I've talked to event promoters that say, we don't even know when we're going to be able to put on a face-to-face event again. We don't know. We've got to pivot, which means change. We've got to change our model to be a complete online model. There are telemarketers out there that are not only have told me that they don't get people too civil on the phone, but they're getting told, you should be ashamed to call me during this pandemic.
Yeah.
So they're pivoting. They're thinking of creative ways. And if nothing more, maybe people take away that we need to tap into our creativity now, even more than we ever have before. So, maybe we should start to think about, well, let's take it into the business a little bit more. So how can people use your creative mindset to think about designing better customer experiences, or use them in customer service, so that the customer does not feel like they're just being sold or they're just a number? So they also feel the empathy and the level of experience and partnership and trust that you want to convey, to keep them as customers and keep them for the long term, and make sure you're taking care of them. How do we use creativity in this customer service, customer experience world now?
Yeah, I think creativity is one of the most important parts of customer service. Why? Because everybody's doing things the same way. Everyone. When you go into a retail store these days, you go into a supermarket or something like that, there's bread at the end of the aisle, there's milk on the corner, there's eggs over here, there's butter opposite. I mean, the experience is not one that anybody looks forward to. When you get gas, when you go to the dentist, going to the dentist is like, it's like a joke. I'd rather go to the dentist than do such and such. And we've gotten so bad at really looking at the customer journey, whether it's physical or digital, and seeing those different milestones that they encounter along that journey, and where we can inject creativity into every moment. I'll give you an example. So a customer walks into let's do a store. They walk into a supermarket these days, right? And then they see, somebody standing there with maybe a spray bottle spraying everything down, and you kind of, okay, you get the cart. There's distance. It's weird, nobody's ever walked into a market like this before. It's always, you grab your own cart, you kind of get going. And the feeling is weird. And what can we do as a brand? Let's say we're a major retailer, grocery retailer. What can we do as a brand at that touch point to inject creativity? Is it empathy? Do we show a bit of humor there? Are our signs in, maybe a little bit funny, maybe a little bit off color? Are we using, the plaques on the floor that, have some play on the fact that, maybe it's the eggs that tell you go to the left and the butter, now has a face and it's waving at you, so on and so forth. There's a million ideas that we can come up with, but those ideas that I come up with aren't the right ideas for that particular brand. Steve, creativity is deeply ingrained in who we are. And the way that it comes out for you is not going to be the same way that it comes out for me. Okay, Steve, you own a Napa Auto Parts or whatever. And the way that you go through at that first touch point when the customer opens the door and inject creativity into that moment will be yours and yours alone. It is a moment, a great moment, to become a solidified brand and to show that customer, hey, listen, this is who we are as a company. Boom, right there at that moment. So, what I recommend for your listeners to do is look at their journey for their customer, whomever they are, whether it's online or whether it's in person, their buyer, really. It could be, business to business interaction. It could be a bunch of things. But when you look at your buyer, you understand sort of their mindset, and you're able to create different, like, mini brand experiences, if you will, as they progress through those individual sort of, milestones of conducting business with you. Every moment is open to injecting creativity.
That's interesting you say that, because, I was thinking as you're saying that we as humans are just not built for distance to each other. We're that's not the way we're built. No. We're social animals, at the foundation of our core, and to be operating this way out of necessity is changing people. And I hope we can get back our ability to connect, and we don't lose the way to connect. So I think you're saying something great for the business too, to also make sure that they're connecting and engaging with their customer at a level of trust and empathy and humor and all of that too.
In every crisis comes an amazing opportunity for innovation and creativity. I want your listeners to ask themselves, what am I doing now to take advantage of this situation and to use, to make lemonade from lemons? What are you doing? Listen, in 1982, there's one of the worst crises we've ever had with medicine, where a terrorist poisoned Tylenol pills with cyanide. Okay, I talk about it in the book. A lot of younger listeners might not know the story. I'll give a quick little recap. Basically, nobody knew what was going on, and people started dying, and it was very, very bad. And, Johnson & Johnson at the time, they didn't know what to do either. I mean, Tylenol, people dying, what's going on? They shut down the factories. They, did everything in their power, yet people were still dying. So they said, you know what? We're going to change tack, and we're going to deal with this crisis, fill in the best we can with what we know and get it out there. One, they set up a communication model that is unprecedented. They set up an 800 number, which is, a toll-free line. Today would be, an app or something like that, where people would call in and ask questions and so on and so forth. They told the public, we don't know what's going on. Can you imagine a company doing that today? Going, I don't know, Hewlett, I don't know, some company out there going, hey, I'm sorry, we have no idea what's going on. That's unprecedented. They were honest. They were open. They were vulnerable. They showed all of these qualities that made people say, you know what? I think these guys are giving us a fair shake. And I think they're trying really, really hard to figure out what's going on. And I think that, I want to see what happens because I'm starting to develop trust. Trust is not always, something that you just kind of tell somebody, oh, trust me, and they do it. It's sometimes a series of actions that you need to show for somebody to develop that trust. So anyway, they found this thing. It was only in a certain market. The terrorist sort of was able to stop. They never really found the guy, which is amazing, but they ended up, creating in 2 months' time, 6 weeks, in 1982, 6 weeks of time, they were able to create sealed on the packaging, which we still have with us today. So if you go to the market, I don't know, maybe I'm hungry. I'm in a supermarket kind of mood. But if you open a cottage cheese, it's got the seal on it, right? That's from the Tylenol crisis of 1982. When you get medicine now, there's a plastic wrapper around the bottle that it's tamper-proof, right? That's an innovation that came from the 1982 Tylenol story. Every consumer good right now has some safety measure in it to avoid and to prevent tampering. And that was the good that came out of the horrible bad. There is good to come out of COVID too. What are your listeners doing to make their good come out of this bad? And it's going to vary on the person, and it's going to vary on the sector, whether your listeners are in manufacturing or whether they're in retail, whatever sort of manifestation their business takes, it's going to be specific towards how they want to solve the problem. But make no mistake about it, it is high time now to come up with these ideas and to execute them and make lemonade out of lemons.
Absolutely. No, that makes perfect sense. So let's put ourselves in the position of our listeners. As we close every episode, we talk about things that our listeners can do today before they can get to you and read your book, which is coming out on August 4th, The Creator Mindset. Before they do that, what things can they do as a homework assignment? Maybe when they're talking to their team on Zoom or on Teams or on WebEx or whatever they're using, and they're talking to their leadership team or their managers and what have you, what things can they start to think about that will get them moving towards a more creative approach to their business?
Yeah. So your listeners today, if they're sort of trying to figure out what do I do? The first thing I would recommend is that character counts right now. It is easy to say, hey, everything sucks and I'm just a victim or whatever. But character is incredibly important right now. And you are able to sort of show good character in this event, and that will be received really, really well by your customer. The second thing that you can do is be yourself. When times of crisis happen like this, you need to look at who you are, what you're doing, and why you got into the business in the first place. That will give you every single answer that you need to progress creatively. Listen, you're in the podcast business. You didn't fall into this business. It's not just kind of like what happened to you. You've gotten, a great radio and a great TV history. You do this for a very good reason. And if I were to say, Steve, things are really bad and, you're going to have to change your model, this isn't the time for you to say, you know what, Nir, I'm going to become a fighter pilot in the Navy. That's what I'm going to do. That makes no sense. You need to look into your history. You need to look into who you are and what you do and take from those precious, beautiful, creative moments and reshape the experience of what your product or service is so that it can be competitive in today's marketplace. And finally, the last thing that I want to tell your listeners is you got to question norms, right? You can't just accept what people are telling you as being the, sort of end all be all. Because when we are able to solve problems creatively, everything is open for interpretation. Even what I'm saying, I want your listeners to go, you know what? I am going to take these few things. I'm going to get energized by it. I'm going to start listening to what my gut's been telling me to do and that I've been shoving down because it's not serious. And I run this is serious and that kind of thing. You are able to help balance those two parts of the mind. And by sort of questioning those norms, you can learn to give yourself permission to change it. All a norm really is a, hey, it ain't broke, so why fix it? Or we've been doing it yesterday, Nir, so it'll work tomorrow, which I get a lot. But now with change going on everywhere, people who are going to do well are going to embrace that and tweak and change and adjust their models moving forward. And then people who are not are just going to get left behind.
I agree. So let's talk about how people can get in touch with you. I think they can get you at thecreatormindset.com. And
Yep.
when is your book being released?
August 4th, it's being released on Amazon and, Barnes & Noble. All of the major bookstores will have it, and you can get it wherever you like to buy books.
And that's, that's The Creator Mindset?
Yep, The Creator Mindset.
Good. Well, I urge people to take what Nir has talked about here, take it into practice, maybe work with your team on some of these tips that were given, and seek out Nir's expertise at thecreatormindset.com. I think this is great. I hope you'll join us again, and we see more of you. This has been great for me.
Thanks, Steve. I love it, and I'd love to be back.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Nir, for coming. Everyone, once again, that's an episode of The Science of CX, and I'm Steve Pappas, your host. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, and until the next time we meet, please take care.